Before I began college, I was pretty entrenched in the idea that I would go into education. A lot of people assumed that I just wanted to be a teacher when I mentioned this, and a lot of them told me that I needed to rethink my future. But it's hard to rethink a future that is detached from my family's past. Neither of my parents was able to finish school, so that obviously adds meaning and value to education for me. To add greater perspective, my father had spent 3 years of his childhood in a concentration camp in India and was only able to study up to 7th grade at a local Chinese school in Calcutta's Chinatown. Needless to say, my parents pushed me hard to study and do well in school, not just so that I could succeed, but so that I could really appreciate the value of education. So when I asked them to let me go back to India in 2010 to teach English in Darjeeling, my father's hometown nestled in the Himalaya, they of course supported my interest. For 3 weeks I taught at Arya morning and day school. Younger students usually worked on spelling and grammar, but my older students enjoyed poetry and discussions. We talked about Maya Angelou's The Caged Bird and Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. I'm not sure if my students will remember those classes years from now, but I do know that I learned a lot from them. It's been a while since I've last taught a class or even tutored, so when Professor Shen Yufei introduced the Luan family to me, I was ecstatic. For the last 2 weekends, I spent time tutoring Zoey. Each Saturday, I plan on spending about 2 hours with her. Though she has only studied English for 2 years, she speaks very well and learns very quickly. I can tell that Mr. and Mrs. Luan are so fond of their daughter. They told me that they have another daughter who is currently studying in Los Angeles, so they have high hopes for Zoey. Every day of the week is packed, and her schedule is always full of activities, such as dance class and drawing lessons, which will make her a well-rounded student. Though Zoey is already an excellent student, her parents seem to be most proud of their daughter's artistic skills. I asked her if I could take some pictures of her drawings so that I could show my parents later on. Her parents eagerly brought out a portfolio of drawings that they had been saving for years, while Zoey bashfully protested in the background. She eventually picked out a few drawings and let me take pictures of them. She loves to draw pictures and scenes from a famous Chinese cartoon about a family of sheep. I believe Alex made me watch it once. Perhaps I'm a really bad artist, but I think Zoey draws really well for an 8-year-old. I think it is amazing that Zoey's parents support her interest in art so much. On the wall in front of Zoey's desk, Mr. and Mrs. Luan have displayed and framed some of the pictures that she has drawn. As they were proudly showing me her drawings last Saturday, they explained to me that they encouraged Zoey to expand on what she enjoys doing. At first, this surprised me. While I was growing up, my parents wanted in on the American dream of success, and like many people, they primarily defined success with economic prosperity. I remember the time my dad and I went back to India, and he showed me where and how he used to live. He pointed at the window shutters of this building and explained, "When I was young, I loved to read, but your Akong would always fuss at me, telling me that education was a privilege beyond our means. At night, after everyone fell asleep, though, I would sneak to the window and use the light shining in through the shutters to read." Though my father has a romanticized value for education, he also likes to think that it leads to economic prosperity. Zoey's parents are not so different. Mr. Luan was explaining to me that though he wants Zoey to enjoy doing what she loves, he also hopes that she will put her talents to good use. His dream is for her to someday become an engineer, just like him. With this in mind, I try to balance fun and practicality during Zoey's tutoring sessions. This past Saturday, we worked on writing letters. Though I can't exactly remember the last time I wrote a personal letter to a friend, I do think that there is something cozy about sitting down and just writing to someone or opening your mailbox and finding a handwritten label on the envelope. Knowing how much Zoey loves to draw, I try my best to incorporate drawing into our lessons so that she is not only able to endure an agonizing 2 hours of English on a Saturday with me, but so that she also has a reason to continue drawing every single day. In one of her letters, she wrote to her desk partner, and she chose blue stationery for him since he's a boy. In her letter, she mentioned not seeing him over Mid-Autumn Festival and missing her friends. When I jokingly suggested that she may be right, "I missed you over the holiday," she said, "I didn't miss him, though." His letter didn't get a picture. During our sessions, I learn a lot from Zoey, too. Whenever we talk, there are inevitably words that I don't understand in Chinese, and I oftentimes have to refer to the dictionary on my iPhone. Even then, I sometimes struggle looking up words, but Zoe is always glad to help me out. Years from now, I wonder if Zoe will remember any of our lessons. But even if she doesn't, I'm more concerned with ensuring that she has some good memories of learning and having fun. That way she can actually appreciate an education. While I know Zoe is probably too busy for me to give her homework, I did give her homework this week. When I told her I had a small assignment at first, she looked pretty disappointed. But when I told her that her assignment was to draw me some pictures this week so that we could write stories in English next week, she instantly broke into a smile and asked, "How many do you want?" The ultimate tiger mother, Amy Chua, would probably call me a wimp for harboring what she considers an indulgent Western belief that fun and learning ought to go together. But when I see how Mr. and Mrs. Lawn are willing to stray away from the mainstream competitiveness of Zoe's peers by embracing her interest in drawing, I think they are incredibly brave. I think I'm incredibly lucky that my family's background in India has given me a reason to really appreciate education for what it is. There are definitely days when my dad tells me that I'm silly for majoring in anthropology instead of something like economics or even political science. But he usually backs down when I laugh and reminds him how lucky I am that I have a father who lets me just sit in front of a window in broad daylight and enjoy a good book.